Hi, good Shabbos from the holy city of Tzfat. We are here in the north of Israel. The news is on us. The whole world is about the north of Israel. Will Iran attack? Will the evil Hezbollah attack? The most important question now is to understand basically destiny. Because history is his story, and his story is the destiny of humanity. The key thing to understand is that life is not random. The very fact that we are right here, right now, that we could see what we're seeing now, that the Jewish people are in this country now, is a miracle. There's never been a time in human history that a nation has come back to its ancient homeland, certainly after 2,000 years. Furthermore, it was predicted in the Torah. So we are not talking about a situation that is somehow based on what Iran thinks, what Hezbollah thinks, what the anti-Semites, which have reared their foolish, bitter head. They asked Freud for the definition, psychological makeup of an anti-Semite, so he said, a miserable bastard. And I used to think that was a joke, but I realize it's real, because all of us are pretty much the same. When we're happy, we're loving and giving. When we are miserable, then we become jealous of the good that others have, and we become a jerk. We all have it, whether it may be a time in our lives that we're feeling unfairly treated, we may be feeling anger, and basically we're miserable, and that causes us to be cruel and mean. And so the message of this time, because this is the time what's called Bein HaMetzarim, between the constraints, the difficulties of the 17th of Tammuz and Tisha B'Av, when the Romans and I think the Babylonians broke into the walls around the Holy Temple. They fought their way 3 weeks later. They both, tragically, on the 9th of Av, I think it's Tuesday this year, destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. But really, the real breach was when things are good, when things are positive, are we focused on what is right? The concept of 100,000 rockets looming not too far from me, Iranian rockets too, would actually ask themselves the question, should I even be here or not? And the answer to the question is, the end of the day, Einstein regretted releasing the technology to make the atom bomb, because he says, I don't know what World War III will be fought with, but World War IV, sticks and stones. In other words, he said that had he realized it's not the bomb that detonates, but the heart that detonated. In other words, and I'm putting some words into what he was saying, but it's basically that idea that the heart that's miserable, that just seeks to destroy. We look at what Putin is doing, just absolute hundreds of thousands murdered. When Obama was president, he arranged a war against Syria, 500,000 murdered. Created a civil war in Libya, who knows how many people murdered. We're talking about every death is a tragedy, and yet there are people that their own misery is so great that their only release is actually making someone else miserable, hurting someone else. I was today going up the street from the Arizal with my wife, and I saw two kids, and unfortunately one of them, they were both looked like a little special needs. One of them tripped and he fell, and he got angry. Maybe one was 15 and the brother was 13, and he hits his brother, and the brother starts to cry. And of course I did what I could, but the point is, why did he hit his brother? You fell. Why are you hitting the other guy? And the answer is, because if I'm suffering from shame and feeling miserable, why shouldn't you suffer too? And it's easy to say that this is somebody else, that somebody else lives their life in such a terrible way, but it isn't somebody else. It's you and it's me. We're all the same. When we're happy, we don't see what's wrong with others because we just want to continue to be happy. And when we're not happy, when we're miserable, when we're angry, you know what we do? Is our brain finds fault in others, and we actually believe our own brain. We usually believe our own brain, and we believe that the other is at fault. And it is my job to point out those faults. So if we really want to rectify the world, we have to get to this one point, which is respect. As soon as I'm disrespecting someone else, including myself, in fact, as soon as I cross the boundary of respect, I've crossed the ethical boundary. A lot of people talking today about ethics. You know, former, I'm not going to say he who mustn't be named, as I say, but I did mention before the people that he killed. I called him the shamer in chief. He's busy telling everybody else what's wrong. Hitler did that too. You know, Putin does that too. The terrorists do that too. They're busy telling the whole world. Iran does it too. And yet you are the greatest murderers. You are the people that have come into societies that could be loving and nice. And instead of using your energy for creating more peace, you're creating more friction, more war, and literally more death. And the reason for that we mentioned, but the solution to that is to realize that each one of us has a choice to make. And the choice is, do I allow other people to negatively affect me? Because if I do allow them to affect me negatively, instead of feeling compassion on the misery that they're feeling, there's a lady that I know, Esty Sisk, she was going with her husband Jerry, and they were in Denver, Colorado. They were in an elevator, and a person was an anti-Semite, and he started making anti-Semitic slurs at them. So I asked Esty, how did it make you feel? And the reason I asked her was because she and her husband were converts, or he passed away, so that's what I'm saying, were. So they didn't have any background or any trauma from being shamed as Jews. They became Jews in their 60s or 70s. So she said, I felt sorry for him. I realized he was suffering. When somebody shames you, or think about the people that shamed you in the past, do a little meditation with me. Take a deep breath. Breathe in God. Breathe out shame. Breathe in love. Breathe out fear. Breathe in joy. And breathe out any sorrow and misery. And instead of feeling anger at the people that shamed you, try to feel sorry, because they must have been miserable. Somebody must have shamed them. They must have been walking around with such hurt in their heart, with such a feeling that they're so much worse than everybody else, with we call narcissism, confirming narcissistic abuse, that they were feeling that they had to make themselves look good to be seen better than they thought people thought of them. When we can realize that abuse and negativity comes from a person feeling great shame, and if they look so good and they look so prideful, it's only because they're covering up so much shame. If a person is not in pain, they're not shouting. When a person is so filled with their grandiosity, it's because their ego is in pain. And let us pray to God, God, King of the universe, that made me, that makes everyone and everything every moment. Please, please, bring the Mashiach. They say that the Mashiach will come from right here at Tzfat, Israel. It will come in a miraculous way. A young boy recently had a dream, somebody that I tutor, and he saw, perhaps it's this mountain here, he's actually from England, he saw on a mountain, on a donkey, the King Mashiach, and the King Mashiach had a crown. And the Jewish army had gone into Lebanon, which is going to happen. And the enemy and the Jewish army all turned because a great sound and a great light came out of Mashiach. And that light eliminated the enemy. My friends, we are in historic times. Very soon, this vision, the vision that we've been promised of the resurrection of the dead, of the holy temple coming from the sky, of clouds coming, it is going to happen. And it's our job to celebrate that vision now. This Shabbos, enjoy your Shabbos. Enjoy it like you've never enjoyed Shabbos before, because you've been granted life. You've been granted liberty. You've been granted happiness. There are others that have not, they don't have this. They don't have Shabbos. And know that in your joy, you're going to transform the negative to the positive. You're going to bring the Mashiach. Feel how we're all one. We're one people, and our heart breaks for those that are held hostage, and all our brave soldiers that are fighting for the sake of freedom. And we encourage the Prime Minister and the American government to strike the head of the octopus, strike evil, get rid of it. Aristotle says big problems come from small problems. And Zevi Weinberg says huge massacres come from small massacres. Right now Iran is doing small massacres, whether they're doing it in Iraq, whether they're doing it through the Hezbollah in Lebanon and against Israel, whether they're doing it through Hamas against the Arabs that live in the Gaza Strip, as well as against Jews, whether they're doing it in Yemen against the Yemenis Arabs, against the Saudi Arabians, wherever they're doing it. And they're exported, they've done terror in the Olympics, wherever they're doing it, it's a small massacre. They're trying to make nuclear weapons because they believe that when the world will be filled with blood up to a horse's knee, then the Messiah will come. And everything that you're seeing in this war is just their blackmail, saying, don't attack us because we will attack you. But to actually attack them now because God will save you. We have to have the courage to do what's right. As Yehuda the Maccabee said, maybe in this very region, he said, whatever happens is up to God. But whether we fight, whether we stand tall and proud and strong and do what's right, that's up to us. So may God grant that I and you and all of us should always do what is right. To love more, to hate less, to forgive more, to hold less grudges, and to ever be grateful, because every moment is a gift, an undeserved gift from a loving Creator. I don't deserve my life, it's a gift. And one day, we're going to see all of our loved ones, all the hostages, everybody that died for the sake of God now. They're going to be back, forever living with the Holy Beis HaMikdash. If you like this message, spread it, because this is, in my humble opinion, the truth from the Rebbe, which we need to spread. Thank you so much.